Samantha, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to l'Écho du Mercredi, the economic show of Maurice Info. We met some weeks ago.
Yes,
you were launching CIPR in Mauritius. In a few words, what is CIPR? Chartered Institute of Public Relations, that's right?
That's right, exactly. So the Chartered Institute of Public Relations is an organisation which is based in the UK. It was created over 70 years ago in 1948, and it is the only body which has a royal charter to promote excellence in the public relations industry. And it also means that it is the only body which can offer the status of accredited status and chartered status in the industry. So,
when you say the royal chartered,
yes.
Is it linked to Elizabeth?
Yes, well, in fact, it is linked to the monarch. The monarch can only give out one chartered status for each industry. So for the public relations industry, this is the only one which has the stamp of the monarch as the organisation which should promote the industry and promote excellence and also training.
So, you're a member of CIPR?
Yes, in fact I am indeed. I'm a member of the CIPR. I'm also on the international committee of the CIPR, and in fact I'm the only person currently from an African country which is on that committee. So I'm very keen to make progress in Mauritius, but I think in time I will also help to see if I can help build in Africa.
What are your responsibilities in that function of international first and only
Yes.
African member of CIPR?
Yes, so the Chartered Institute of Public Relations International Committee then is a specific grouping which brings together everyone who is interested in communications internationally, whether based in the UK or based abroad. So the International Committee itself is built of a number of leading practitioners from different countries who come together themselves to say how can we promote networking, how can we promote best practice, how can we promote the profession of the public relations in different parts of the world. But in some parts of the world, like the UK or the US, it's very well established. In other parts of the world, so particularly in the region of Africa, then maybe it's more of an emerging profession. And because I see myself that in Mauritius we say well, you have a chartered engineer, you have a chartered secretary, a chartered accountant. We have plenty of chartered accountants. So when that person comes into the boardroom, they make a pitch, they give their card, and it says ACCA or whatever it is. That all these people have a chartered status, and that makes them very credible. I mean, for me, that the reputational elements of a company are critical, because if you don't have good PR, it can make or break you. So for me, I would like to see in Mauritius that people will gain the chartered practitioner status. So when they sit with their colleagues in a boardroom like this, that they will say, I also am a chartered practitioner for public relations, and it is a strategic, really critical function for the organisation.
In the introduction, I said that we met some weeks ago. You were
Yes.
in Kuala Bagatel.
Yes,
you
we were,
have
yes.
launched the Mauritian chapter, Mauritian network
Exactly.
of it. Why? Because I've asked you a question, I'm going to put it back once again.
Okay, yes.
I've seen associations of PR companies.
Yes.
Is your network in Mauritius different to an association?
Yes, absolutely.
Or in what manner?
Yes, so how it works in Mauritius then is that people can join the organisation as a global affiliate or as a member. So the member gives you more advantages in a way. It gives you also the letters after your name, but the global affiliate is also a very good place to start to get involved in CIPR. And the most immediate advantage is that you have access to around 1,500 development activities, which are mostly online. So if you are, imagine you are a mid-level professional, you would like to change job. Now you might only be working in digital, and you would say, well, I might like to change my job or get a different job in my current company, but how can I learn about branding or crisis communication or internal communication or change communication? Like, how can I learn about that if it's not part of my job? So if you join up with CIPR, then what you can do is you can go through the list of courses. You make up your own program by choosing the courses that appeal to you and the ones that you need. And then over the course of a year, you complete courses under what is called the CPD, Continuous Professional Development Program, which is, I mean, the CPD is well known for other industries as well. So the idea is that you collect points over 12 months. At the end of the year, you complete your cycle, And then after you've completed a couple of cycles, you then can graduate to become an accredited practitioner, which is already a good thing to have on your CV.
Just like a doctor.
Exactly.
Doctor.
It is exactly, that's right. And then after a certain point, maybe after a couple of years, then you will become eligible for the chartered status.
When Mauritians listen to the word institute,
yes.
So you are going to, for me, I don't know, I don't remember the name, for me the PR.
That's it. So it will be, yes, that's right. So it's mostly about training.
Training.
So that's
yeah.
it. So it's about training. Yeah. It's about learning from best practice. So so if you were going to do one of these online courses, you can say, oh, like suddenly I have a crisis. What am I going to do? Because I haven't trained in crisis. I don't have a crisis handbook. How can CIPR help me? So you can go on the crisis part of the system, and it will tell you you have a crisis quick fix course. So you can watch a course for 1 hour. It will give you, a template. It will tell you what are the main areas that you need to cover, what should be in your plan, how do you categorize different types of crises, like how can you prepare yourself, how can you make a document. So so this is the way forwards, that like as a practitioner, you have your password and you have you have your login. So at any point in time during your working day, suddenly something comes up. Oh, I'm not sure what to do. You can look for some support on CIPR's resources. And then over time, when you have the time, you can collect up the modules, and then you sort of rise up the different cycles, and then you can become eventually a chartered practitioner.
You are in the business world.
Yes,
as everybody knows.
Of course, yes.
What are the qualities of a good PR? Somebody who is watching this video, maybe,
yes.
Okay, seems interesting, crisis management.
Yes, yes.
So it's very rare. We can say it's not often a crisis to do crisis, but yes. Crises arrive.
Absolutely, yes.
When we see international business news, there's only crisis.
Exactly, that's very true. Yes.
What are the qualities that somebody must have before starting to like communication, because journalist is a sort of PR, and
that's
we are
right.
not in the same field.
Yes, I personally think that journalism and PR is the two sides of the same coin. I've always thought so. And I think what is important to both is actually the power of storytelling. Because if you are a journalist, you must have a story in your mind before you're going somewhere to cover an event or so on. What is the story, and is it going to be interesting for people? So then from the other perspective of the PR side, you have to get inside the mind of that journalist and say, how can I come up with something which is going to be clear, appealing, it has a good story, the person's editor will also like it, it's not just for them to say, okay, you're my friend, I will publish it. It's all about constructing, a narrative for PR. It's about knowing your audience, having your message, and to execute it effectively in the different.
The first quality is that you can lead, you understand the industry you're talking about. But boy, that girl coming from university or from secondary institutions.
Yes, yes.
Know how to write stories.
Yes,
yes. To do composition, as we see in motion language.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I mean certainly that your written and oral skills must be very good. I mean they must be very well developed. Because if you are not able to write in a coherent way, then the person that is reading it is not going to get the message well. So I personally am a fan of something which is short, concise, something that hits its target well. So when a journalist that receives 1,000 of emails in a day, they see it and they say, oh, this is interesting for me. And it's something that I can use, and I would like to know more. I would like to have a feature or an interview.
From a PR point of view, Samantha, yes. What is a good story? Because when I look to your word of PR, I see only one word.
Yes.
Storytelling.
Yes.
Storytelling on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Storytelling on media. Now we are doing a long video, but
yes,
I don't think there's a story. Now videos are going into that storytelling.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I mean the CIPR itself have been doing some research and looking to see what's about the different channels of communication. And one of them, for example, is Facebook Live. That it has become incredibly popular in the past couple of years, and it's possible that over time this can replace the traditional press conference. So the type of PR that the journalist is now going to be receiving can become more digital than the more sort of face-to-face chance that you had in the past.
If you are a CIPR, you don't want to have a face-to-face. So you're going to sell me something, but I'm not interested. I want to know afterwards. I won't be able to do it.
Well, you will be able to come and talk to me.
Yes,
no, that's very true. But I mean, personally, I am a fan of the one-to-one communication, because I think this is how both sides get the most out of it. That then the person can ask the questions directly. If there are any misperception, then it can be clarified. But I mean, I do think that the digital world in general will mean that more big announcements are made. I mean, if I look at those kind of announcements that Apple makes, for example, I mean, in the biggest announcements in the world, that they have a new product, they will have a live conference which is broadcast simultaneously in hundreds of countries. So I mean, although Apple is probably the one which has pioneered this in a way, and so I mean, here we are in Mauritius, we're on a smaller scale normally. But nonetheless, I mean, I do think that over time, that the digital PR will become, I mean, it is already becoming, but it will become even more prevalent.
I've seen that political parties in Mauritius are using that.
Yes.
We can see some press conference live now.
Yes, live press conference, that's true, yes.
But for the companies, it's not still in the, maybe for the big shows, maybe for a rebranding.
Yes,
but for a press conference, they are not that Facebook Live.
No, but I would say Mauritius, I think, as compared to some other jurisdictions, that actually doesn't have such a strong corporate press conference tradition. I mean, sometimes if there is a visitor coming from abroad that would like to be presented to the media, then like a bank, for example, has someone coming from the Emirates, something like this. They would like to have a press conference and just to introduce the person and get some interviews. So for these types of examples, then I think the press conference will continue. But for things which are actually just very corporate about selling product and so on, I think that we will just see more and more of that type of digital announcement.
But we can agree also, Samantha, but sometimes I do understand that some of my colleagues tell me, this I won't go, it's commercial. It's commercial.
That's true, that is true, yes.
It's commercial, it's not our customer, we don't go because it seems that we are doing publicity.
That's true.
Is that true?
But to some extent, there is always an element of, well, I mean, in many cases, let's say, there are many products and services which are being sold through PR, so the challenge is to make it relevant to the jurisdiction itself. I mean, if I take one example of PR in the areas of fintech and blockchain, I mean, now every day somebody is launching something new, so even myself, I am, I've been involved in this field, so the challenge then here is to say, how do we make that into an actual story and not only a product or service announcement? So how we do that is that we look at the relevance of Mauritius. We say that there's a new regulatory framework in the area of digital assets that we are trying to position Mauritius as the fintech hub for Africa. It's like we actually have to build a story around it, and then we show that what is being offered by the clients is something which is an integral part of the story, and that is why it becomes interesting to a journalist, because otherwise it will simply not.
Yes, is it easy to sell? We are talking about fintech, about blockchain, but le citoyen lambda won't understand what you're talking about. It's very good for, I don't know at what level in Mauritius, maybe for the finance sector.
Yes.
But for the guy who is on the road, he does not know what is blockchain. When you tell stories, you're talking about mergers from this company to this company giving services, but he won't never be concerned by that. Is it easy to say that some technical? I'm not talking about smartphones. I think everyone knows the last model of the last big one in terms of smartphone, but like finance services, fintech.
Yes.
Is it easy for you and like people to sell that to a journalist or even to a newspaper?
Well, I would say for those that are active in business, then I think that there is still an interest now. I mean, the fact that we are trying to promote Mauritius as a fintech hub overall gives it also a sort of governmental and sort of national destiny angle to say that here we are building a blockchain hub that it's going to bring foreign investors, it will bring jobs into Mauritius. I mean, if we are able to demonstrate a real impact on the economy and on job creation, then people are suddenly very interested.
But in this time, in the type of commission, you must tell to that guy, not to the journalist, to that person who is reading that.
Yes, that's it.
Say, okay, there's blockchain, I might be interested, but in 2 years, 3 years, but how are you going to sell that product?
Yes,
I'm not talking to the big guys who are reading big magazines, but to that guy who is in school now.
Yes,
but maybe blockchain will be his welcome to your stuff.
Exactly.
He has to be prepared to that.
Yes, oh yes, indeed. I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's like people who are students that are, are graduating. They would like to find, a new niche to work in, something that will give them a good career. Maybe they can travel. I think that this is the kind of level where, I am aware of a number of operators that are coming into Mauritius. They are setting up an operation here. It's like, some of them already have offices around Eben, which are very much staffed with young people in their 20s, early 30s. So I think it shows that Mauritius has an opportunity here. At the same time, it's true that not everyone in the world, of the consumers, is going to be buying Bitcoin tomorrow. So you have to also be careful how it will be relayed. I was in contact with one person, for example, in Zimbabwe, who'd contacted me. He was a Bitcoin engineer, and he wanted to tell his story in Mauritius. So I asked him, how can you tell us about life in Zimbabwe? How can you explain the relevance to people there? And he said, well, Bitcoin in Zimbabwe is a reality. That I have people come to visit me in Zimbabwe, who are in their 60s and 70 years old. They said all of our savings are completely worthless because of the state of the currency. So we decide to abandon that, and what we want to do is to buy Bitcoins because we think that they are more reliable than the national currency of Zimbabwe. So here you actually had a real life story of how people are becoming interested, and for them it would actually become a real lifeline. Not some kind of vague concept of something which, maybe it's a bubble, maybe it will burst, nobody knows what will happen. But for them, they found it more reliable than what they have. So, I think in Mauritius, because we have the benefit of a stable economy and we have quite a well-developed financial and also a consumer financial market, that we're not in this kind of crisis as Zimbabwe is. But nonetheless, over time, maybe Mauritians will go to the bank to ask for Bitcoin, and they start to become more and more engaged in it.
From your point of view, that Zimbabwean story will interest the Mauritian press?
Well, it may not interest them immediately, but I think that over time, that as different countries start to become more involved at a consumer level, and also if Mauritius wants to become a fintech hub, then maybe it should try to leap ahead and take some initiatives. It gives an example.
So you'll get a lot of work in Africa?
Well, I think over time there will definitely be the chance for work in Africa.
When we see Africa, I'm the local representative of some group, a PO group. There's EMA. There's LibAfrique. There's a lot of. Is it easy to work with these groups that have? Who looks like octopuses? You have branches. I have information from Cameroon, from here, rugby. Is it for you? Is it for you as a member of CIPR to deal with them?
Well, the CIPR itself does have a number of members across different African countries, and I think for now there is definitely a chance for CIPR to grow more in Africa. And it's also something which over time I hopefully can help with. Even while I've been setting up the operation and the network here, that I've had people contacting me from Nigeria, from Kenya, from South Africa, from Niger, from all different countries, telling me, can you explain more about CIPR? Is it something which I can join in my own country? So I think there's definitely a demand for upskilling and for more qualifications, which I think is very encouraging. That even if Africa for now has not been a strong focus for different types of association necessarily, there are some like Uganda that has their own PR association. But I think overall the Africans which I have been in touch with have been very keen for training opportunities. That they would like to learn more, they would like to have more skills. That maybe they don't have the same number of university courses necessarily with different types of PR training. So for people like them, then it's I can see from an anecdotal standpoint, people have been contacting me with questions about it.
So you said many types of PR, other types of PR?
Well, I mean, PR at the end of the day is always going to be about promoting a message, but you have the different, you have different ways of doing it. So I mean, you have the sort of digital PR, you have internal communications within a company, you have crisis, you have more traditional sort of strategic PR, which might be for a global project. You have many different ways.
What are the main differences? Let's say from a digital PR to a internal PR. What is the
Well, in fact, I mean, interestingly enough, that, I mean, the two are starting to overlap. Because, I mean, if I would say internal communications traditionally would be all about, you've got the management at the top, and then you've got your staff at the bottom.
Notice board, the notices.
Exactly, that's it. So the management will send a message saying, oh yes, we have we have a new person joining, or we have we've acquired a company.
As from today, you cannot chat on Facebook.
Well, that's it. You can't give evidence.
This is the type of internal promotion.
Exactly, the sort of top-down instruction. I mean, what I'm aware of now, that there are a number of companies which are even in Mauritius, for example, that would like to create their own app for their company. So what happens here, they create the app, everybody has it on the phone, and that app can be used by the staff, it can be used by clients, it can be used by contacts. So if you're going to have, imagine you've got a big sort of away day at a hotel in Mauritius, that the people who are at that away day, they can fill in their experience online, they can put their photos of them with their team. So then it starts to become more of a sort of an interaction. It's no longer just from the top to the bottom, but it can also be bottom up. It can be both.
What is the Big Bang was tried, is still doing right now? We have our own brand there.
Yes.
We can see that this is coming very, very popular between enterprise now. So working or what? So there's the work when you can share. So what is happening in every day, your day, their day, big activity of this institution?
Yes, that's right. Because, I mean, another good reason for that, which I think we've also seen in Mauritius, is that for companies where there have been mergers and acquisitions and so on, that you may not have a common culture amongst different organisations. You can have a very, very big group, which was then, then it brought in a smaller one, it brought in a few small ones, and then another big one came along. So then you may suddenly have, a global rebranding. And then how are you going to make all of these people feel involved under that new name which they just received yesterday? So I would say that in the way that this app actually works quite well is that then people can look to see what's happening. Oh, me, I'm in Hong Kong. It's like there's somebody else, which is in in Jersey, or there is somebody which is in the United States, and and I get to hear about them. I get to see their experiences. I see their pictures. It's like then you start to feel that you're actually part of something which you are excited by. So this is a way it works in all directions. Like the management gets to learn what the staff are doing and feeling. It's like the management themselves, if they engage in a discussion, they start to become more more personable. They appear more approachable. So I would say this type of internal PR. It's evolved significantly, I think, in the last couple of years. That now it's like everyone has a role in creating the PR that builds the company culture.
Does a company need to have 4 persons in working that PR relation department, or only one who is doing? Is it like taking phone calls from customers, phone calls from members of the press, and my colleagues, phone calls from the PR agency?
Yes, it is. Well, I mean, there are very many different models. I mean, even in Mauritius itself, I mean, there are some, I would say, for large conglomerates or banks or whatever, that where maybe you have 8 people who are working on a particular on PR areas, but they can also be some are doing digital, some are doing more strategic. That's it. So everyone has a different role. I mean, some of those big firms still use agencies as well for extra activities, for events, for a rebranding, for a very big exercise. And then you have other organisations, let's say NGOs. Maybe they only have, maybe their resources are quite limited. So perhaps they might have just one PR person, or it can also be
one doing everything.
That's it. I mean, there are also some where the person, maybe they're not only doing PR. It can be PR, CSR, can be a bit of human resources. I mean, it can also be sort of gathering up some other functions as well.
How can we do a storytelling, Samantha?
Yes.
For an NGO.
For an NGO.
Is it easy to sell that to it's very emotional and humanitarian?
Yes, indeed, yes.
Is it easy, or is it easier to sell that, or to sell the latest, I don't know what product who is going to revolutionize my life?
Yes, well, I mean, I think there's definitely room for both. I mean, I can give you one example of an organisation which is one I'm currently looking to help out, which is looking to promote a facility for the mentally ill in Mauritius. So this is an organisation which asked me for some advice. I've said to them, what we need to do is we need to appeal to the emotions of people, to say that the mentally ill are not well catered for in Mauritius. It's like those which are very chronic are staying in the clinic of Brown Sekar, but for those which are not so bad, but nonetheless they're not really able to cope on their own, for these people there's actually nothing currently. So how do you go about helping them? How can you appeal to businesses, to communities, and to people to say we need to have donations to help build this, because we can't attract sufficient funding from the public sector. So for them, that we're currently looking to construct the narrative and the arguments and the emotional appeal, which will say to people, this is needed in Mauritius, and we don't have it for now.
For that particular ONG,
yes.
Samantha. Do you have to have a beautiful story? Someone who was ill has been able to heal. Is how we think in Vetocoma it has become normal to cover eyes?
Yes.
This is the type of story that will make somebody to put funds into some money into that NGO when you say, well, you don't have any results for the time being.
No, that's right. I mean, now that the project is still in its early stages, but I would say in time, as it moves along, then definitely we would be looking to bring in the testimonies of the people who are affected, because this is really something which is about changing people's life, which is in a way that the smartphone is never, I mean, much as you like it, it doesn't change your life and your ability to actually live day by day. So I think that those NGOs which actually do have a good purpose and a good story to tell, that they need to do everything they can to prove it and to bring in all of those people that are affected.
Is it easy to work with these people presiding of these people that control the ONGs, or they are very square-minded?
No, on the contrary. I mean, I think that people at different NGOs, of those that I've met in different contexts, I mean, also a number of religious ones which I've come across as well, that I mean, I think they are extremely open-minded, they are very enthusiastic. The main issues that they face is funding on the one hand, because I mean, if you would like to make a video to demonstrate your activity,
it's a lot of money.
That's it. You still got to pay for it. I mean, there are not so many people that are willing to do that on a pro bono basis. So if it's something which is very time-consuming in terms of work, you must find the money. And the other is in terms of the internal resource that the people are involved. Even if you come along and you come to film them, that they are very uncomfortable in front of the camera.
Everyone is uncomfortable in front of the camera.
That's right.
It's 99.9%.
Well, that's true. But I mean, some people I've seen actually shaking. I mean, we had one project a few months back, which was to help the St James Cathedral in Port Louis. So I'd come along to help out on the day of the filming, and there was one lady that had spent the whole night writing a script on 2 pages, and so she came along in front of the camera, she took her script, and she was shaking so much that she couldn't read it. So I said, look, madam, I said, don't worry about your script. She said, no, but I've been writing it all night. I said, no, we don't want to know your script.
Is it stressful for them?
Oh, very, very, very stressful for them. So I said, look, we don't want to know about the script. Interesting as it is, all we want is for you to come along and tell us, what does this cathedral mean to you? What does it mean to you, in your heart and in your family? That's the only thing we want you to tell us. And then she put her paper away and she said, for me, this is a second home. It's a second home for me and my family.
You had your story.
That's it. That was a story. We never heard the script, because this was
all
that we wanted to
them?
Yes.
Let's say that lady was just for the filming, but you have to train your customer. I will put it in your customer, your client.
That's it.
Your friend to be prepared to go in front of a camera. There's a lot of cameras. 10 years ago there was only the NBC. Now there are many internet outlets like mine, Maurice,
of course,
my colleagues. Are they prepared to to go there?
I would say mostly not. So, so what I've done with this kind of exercise, you know, like something for the church or whatever, is to say, right, we're going to have we'll have 4 or 5 people who are going to speak. You know, like you, like say you are the architect, for example, or you are, you know, you are the dean of the cathedral. That this is what you're going to say. Like, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to say, you know, why is this cathedral being renovated? And you're just going to tell us in a couple of minutes, you know, just tell us a few details, because the whole video might only be about 2 or 3 minutes long. We don't have to hear, like, you know, 95 minutes of background. That's it. All we just want each one to tell their part of the story. So, so we say, well, we'll talk to you, like we will talk to some of the people that come here, and we will tell them, you know, don't worry, just be relaxed. It's only going to be for, you know, a couple of minutes. We just want to know, you know, what does this mean to you? What does it mean to your life? What does it mean to your family, and what will it mean to all of you when this has been restored to its former glory? So then what we've done, you know, with a video team is we've just sort of, you know, we've put together the story, and then when we watched it overall, it came out very coherent, because everyone had their part of the storyline. Yes.
Do you enter in that part? We are talking about my job.
Yes.
And yours.
Yes.
Whenever you do PR, you have your media team, you have your cameraman, your sound engineer,
yes.
and you have all the rushes.
Yes.
Do you work? I don't know. Like I prefer the word work to interfere. Do you work with the guy?
Oh yes.
The one putting all these images.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yes.
Do you pick and choose the rushes to make the film?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, there are many cases where I've sat in the editing suite with the team, and in fact, because what often happens is, I mean, you know how it works here, that's like the guy who's actually putting together the first cut, that he wasn't there, and he doesn't know any of the people. So, so I would come in and say, look, okay, you've got one guy that basically for the first 5 times, he made a mess of it. But there was only the last time that he actually said what was needed. So you can delete all of those first 6 times that you see him. We're only going to use the last one. But I mean, I've also realised even when we try to practice with people in advance. I mean, there was one case where we did last year a film which was about entrepreneurship. So we had one guy like in the company near Port Louis, like in the manufacturing. So we sat down, we said, let's just do a quick run through. We've just got 2 or 3 questions, and he said, fine. So we did a practice like this. It was extremely coherent, perfectly fine. And we said, good, okay, we'll just do it again with the film. And then as soon as he had the light on him, he couldn't remember anything. It was, you know, like once it was live, that he was not able to do it. Yes.
If you were that PR person in front of him.
Yes.
What would you do? The 0, we tell it, it's the interview 0.
Yes.
Whenever it's on, the lights are on.
Yes.
Wasn't it better for you, like a PR, to tell to the guy, okay, put the camera, let's say, we say, put the lights on, he's in that atmosphere? Because one technique that I've learned is not to come and put the camera in front of you, just, okay, we go.
Yes.
You're used to me, but another person, maybe we have to introduce that element.
Yes, that's
the element that is a camera. We do have a little chat before we talk about family.
Yes.
You're ready? When I see that you're ready, you are the people, you see that your client who is a journalist, might be with an international journalist coming from Africa or France, or I don't know where he's coming, he's ready. You see when he's not no more seeing the camera. I'm sure right now you're not seeing the camera.
No, I'm just looking at you.
You're looking at me.
Yes.
But the first minute you were looking to the camera.
Yes, that's it, because it's like you have a natural tendency just to see, is it on, is it working, you know. It's,
do you tell that to your customer and the technical team, say, okay, put the environment as it was to be, not now to that version that you told me, but as soon as the lights were on, the guy was
that's it.
Panicked.
That's it. What we have sometimes done, for example, is to tell the person that we've just put everything on, but this is only the practice, because in fact then we will have actually already filmed it. So what can sometimes happen is that the rehearsal, the person was more relaxed, and then we say, okay, we'll do it again, and then they will feel like, oh, now it's for real, and then it will be worse. So then when it comes then to actually piecing it together, that we may end up using what was used the first time, which they thought was a practice, and in fact it turned out to be better. But you can be caught out in a case where someone looks very confident, where you think, oh, this was very professional, they've done this plenty of time before, and then suddenly when this person suddenly is unable to speak, then you say, okay, well, maybe let's take a break. Yes, yes.
I understand that from the human point of view.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, because there's always the extra level of stress when the person knows that the thing is running, because they think, oh dear, what can I do, if I've made a mess of it? Because also what many people don't realise is that you're expecting to have, in many cases for a video, that you're expecting to have a number of takes anyway. So they feel embarrassed if they don't get it right the first time. That that then they will be even more nervous a second time because they think that they have inconvenienced all of the crew, that they wasted people's time and so on. So I think myself, whenever I'm in this filming situation, then the key is just to make the people feel as relaxed as possible, to try to ask them a sufficient number of questions to get the answers that you need. And also to and to prepare them in as much as you can in advance.
But sometimes like I do on my shows, if there's you ask me for a question, I won't be able to put that question because I don't know the subject.
Well, that's true.
You're going to tell me your story.
That's it.
All these people, these CEOs, these CFOs, I don't know what other names they have, managing the MDs, the directors, are trying to see a guy like me, to go with the camera and then we go, I don't know where we are going?
No, I would say not always. There are some organisations which will decide to have a media training on a regular basis, but it can also happen that because management tends to change quite often, that you can face a problem where imagine that a few people have changed, suddenly there's a crisis, the person has to appear before the camera, that maybe they haven't done any types of media training, not internally, not with with an agency or whatever. And also people can struggle if they are new to an organisation, that they may not feel very competent to talk about it, because they may not know, how many employees do I have, how many countries am I in. It's like some of these kind of basic details that, excuse me, that maybe they don't know that. So like myself, and I would say from the side of the CIPR, we would encourage having media training within organisations on a regular basis.
But whenever Samantha, there's a new guy in a big company, you're aware about it. He feature people. We have some new in the news. A new guy in a hotel, but he must be ready to talk to journalists. It won't be a picture that you send to me via a press communique, and then the story goes.
That's true.
We are happy. He's the new big boss in I don't know what company. The story is up here. Are they ready, the new guys, to come and talk about their visions, what they want to do?
Yes. Well, I would say what also happens in Mauritius quite often is that there are a certain group of people that tends to be like CEO of this, the managing director of that, and then CEO of something else. So when it comes actually to a meeting with the journalist knows the person well. They've interviewed them plenty of times before, but then the main issue that person will face is that they know everything about Mauritius, they know everything about the economy, but they may not know anything about the company that they are in. So the job then of the PR person in the company is to brief them as well as they can, to practice, to rehearse, to possibly to bring in external trainers if needed, just so they're able to fill in that missing part. Because like myself, when I've done media training in the past, I've also trained people that used to work in government, came to the corporate sector, and they can talk all about Mauritius and the economy and and government policy, but they couldn't talk about the company they were in.
So you told us something brief. How PR brief on journalists? This is a very hard question. Are you briefing your PR? Are you briefing your customers?
Yes.
Okay, Jesse is coming.
Yes.
Beware this guy because he's going to beware to that guy from that outlet. Maybe others don't, but these guys are very dangerous because they are going to squeeze you in a corner, and you might be able. Are you briefing your company, your customers about certain journalists that ask very many questions, and I'm one of them.
Yes, I would say, in general, it would obviously be kind of a good practice for any PR person to give some background on the journalist and on their interest. And I mean, so particularly in Mauritius, that it is a small place. I mean, myself, I would say that I mean, for most of the journalists which I would generally deal with on economic issues, that I've probably met most of them like many times before. Like I'm on Facebook with them, or I meet them here and there. But I mean, I think that's it. But I mean, I would say, I mean, I don't genuinely think that there are very many in Mauritius that are really trying to stitch you up, that are really trying to be vicious and nasty, in an interview. I mean, I don't really see that. I mean, it's different to the UK, where like journalists on Sunday newspapers can be extremely tricky, and like their only motive is going to be to try and to stitch you up in some way, to make you say something, to take it out of context. I mean, I think in Mauritius the media landscape is more fair, that you're willing to give people a good chance to tell their story, that it will be represented in a faithful way, that people will not try to twist it. I mean, so maybe in the case of the political arena, then there's more, there's more, how can we describe it, more flexibility in the way that things might be presented, but I think in the corporate realm, journalists are normally fair. So I mean, myself, if I would be, like advising someone, I would say, this is a journalist from this publication that, I mean, first of all, in terms of how much content are they going to write, this one might do 3 pages, this one's going to do like 600 words, and
some guy will put your video.
Exactly, that's it.
You should be ready to see that video for nearly forever, right?
Yeah, that's it. It'll be there like forever. So I mean, I think that it's obviously right to prepare people, so then when they're meeting that person, they know what level to start with.
We talk about journalists, Samantha, but sometimes there are no good stories on that company.
Yes.
Crisis management, and you open international news, there's something in Japan, there's something in USA, there's something in China, a crisis management. But in Mauritius, sometimes there are some crises. Is the person that doing PR in a company able to do crisis management? Whenever you are going to have 500 or 600 calls asking you for what is going on. Let's say there was a fire in Pointe-aux-Sables. I do imagine the PR there having to answer to radios, to newspapers, to salutations, to the population right there who are living there. I'm not pinpointing that company,
of course, yes.
But basically, for 1 2 days there is a lot of stress.
Yes. I mean, I think you're right there. I mean, there are different types of crises. I mean, there can be that kind of crisis that kind of suddenly comes out of nowhere, which is a fire, a tragedy. I mean, like particularly when we have the hospitality industry here, something happens to somebody staying in a hotel. They can drown at sea. I mean, all kind of things can potentially happen. So I mean, I think for all of those types of organisations which are responsible for the lives of people and their well-being, that they all need to have a good and well-prepared crisis plan. That they need to know what is all the emergency contacts for journalists, for example, and they need to what they really should do if they are clever is to make sort of template press releases to say if there was a fire, then these are the kind of things that we would say. If there was some other tragedy, these are the kind of things that we would say.
It's an easy job.
I'm sorry?
It's an easy job if ever there is a template in case of fire, in case of death, in case of accident, instead of strike. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's right. But like to actually have templates which are ready to go is something which is important. Because it's like it can be the case that if something happens very suddenly, like how are you going to prepare yourself on time? I mean, one thing I can give you from the CIPR case studies is that last year when you had the terror attacks in London, for example, that the Metropolitan Police were able to send out the first message to the public on Twitter within around 7 minutes, which was very quick, like it happens, and 7 minutes later the Metropolitan Police is already communicating about it. It's telling people to get out of the area, it's telling them where to go, what to do. And what an exercise which was conducted is that the Metropolitan Police actually did simulation exercises with journalists in the UK. So it was an exercise which was quite innovative, that not been tried before. So they would say, okay, there's there's a crisis, a bombing, a killing, something like this has happened, in a particular area, and then they've worked together on the simulation of how together they're going to communicate that. How they're going to,
This is in England.
Yes.
You're Mauritius, but Twitter, it's our level of professional.
Twitter is not very popular here.
We're not the American.
No.
But tweets several times a day, but we are on Facebook.
No,
I'm not saying company tweeting on
no, but it doesn't have to be Twitter. But I mean, like with Facebook itself. I mean, Facebook is like very much used in Mauritius and also LinkedIn to some extent. The principle of like being very well prepared for a crisis, I think, stands. Whether you are in banking, whether you're in hospitality, whether you are in manufacturing. Whatever it is. I mean, there are still plenty of things you can do to prepare yourself. And so we're just coming back to the point about crises from different parts of the world. I mean, I would say there is a point where companies in Mauritius, in the management company area, in Eben, where we are today, these can be very much exposed. Because if you are administrating a company in Mauritius, and maybe it's in 20, 30, 50 other countries around the world. And you are administering something which it has a branch here, it has a subsidiary there, it can be in all kind of places. It's like suddenly, like the name of the company that you are administering can become in the middle of a massive international scandal of something like Panama Papers, something like this. I think this is one of the most difficult scenarios to prepare for, because if someone calls your management company and says, are you the administrator of this company, which is now in the international news, then the real answer is like, yes, we are. But it's like, are you going to be allowed to say anything about it? It's like, first you have all the confidentiality principles by which those companies are bound, firstly. Second, it's like, how can you possibly know what has happened with a network of companies, which can be, in Panama, it can be in the Caribbean, and all the rest of it? I mean, how are you going to know the real answer? Because you would not like to mislead the journalist on the one hand, but you don't want to appear unhelpful. Because when people see a comment in the newspaper that the company declines to comment, I mean, I always interpret that as to say, well, if they've got no comments, they must have something to hide. And then a journalist like yourself will say, oh, no comments? Oh, really? Sans commentaire. Why is that? Why haven't you got any commentary?
Whenever we are in that situation, Samantha, of crisis, is it more reliable to go through a communication agency like yours?
Yes.
Or your brothers and sisters in Mauritius, whenever we do crisis management, so to filter all that flow of information.
Yes,
because the CEO will be under
pressure.
attack. The management board, you must prepare your people to what has happened.
Yes.
Not to have meetings with the employees, not to talk to the press. I'm hearing no one talks to the press, no command, you are not aware. If you have somebody from the press asking you, tell that, go to Samantha, phone number, Samantha, give that number.
Yes.
She's going to with it.
Yes, but I think if it's a very sudden crisis, I think that probably it's for the CEO of the company to decide himself to say, do I have the resources to deal with this or not? Like, if I have a team of very experienced people that have been working there for 10 years, that they know all the journalists and they've dealt with crises before, then he might say, okay, we think we can manage. We'll try our best. If it's the case where the organisation is not very well resourced, if the people are new, if they are not very experienced, or like maybe that they're only experienced in digital, but they've never dealt with a crisis before, that CEO might then say, that we're not going to be able to manage this ourselves. We have to start calling around different agencies, get a quick quote, and let's see who is best able to help us.
So in that crisis management, there are many sectors we can. I'm going to take just two that are very, very hard on the company.
Yes.
There's fraud.
Yes.
And then there's sexual harassment. This is
yes.
Is it easy for somebody like Samantha, whenever a customer tells you, there's a fraud, this is going to go out, maybe the regulator is going to bring out a official notice that this company so and so has been. So there will be or there's a story that is going out, somebody has said to have been harassed sexually in her position by somebody who is not low in the company but higher in the establishment. Is it easy to deal with that when you're just doing PR? Or is it very easy to do when you're outside, CEO tells you, as one person has taken 1 million rupees from us, this is going to be on the newspaper tomorrow. How am I going to deal with that?
Yes, indeed, yes. Well, I mean, again, to some extent, it depends on the level and the qualities and the experience of the people that you have. I think the main thing is that if a company finds itself in a crisis situation, you can take. I'll give you one example, which again comes from CIPR, which is like the CARE principle. So what is that? So you've got you begin with like the CARE first. You can say it's like CA is about concern. So first you need to show concern for what has happened, whether that is a sexual harassment. Well, say that we take all forms of, all accusations of sexual harassment is something that the company takes very seriously, and it will be investigating it fully, for example. If it's something to do with fraud, to say we take all our compliance matters, and the sort of the honesty and integrity of our staff is like of crucial importance to our business. Again, this is something where we will be taking action. And this is the next point. Action itself is to say, what am I going to do about it? I'm not just going to sit and do nothing. I'm going to take action. And then the third part would be like the RE of the CARE sort of diagram, which is to say reassurance. Like, how are you going to reassure your internal people who are still working under your brand name? How are you going to reassure your clients that this is like a one-off occasion? It's not something which is endemic in your organisation. It's something which will be properly investigated, that you will cooperate with the authorities. So I think that this sort of care, of concern, of action and reassurance is something which is like very is a very sort of proper way of going about it. And so I'll give you one example which I have given you before, but I'll give it again, which is that of the shootings in New Zealand recently. So this is obviously a major crisis for the New Zealand government and for the Prime Minister. That most people had never heard of this lady Jacinda, the Prime Minister, before.
Well, we knew that she had a baby.
Well, that's it. She was in the
People news.
In the People news. Yes, exactly. That's it. So there were pictures of her with her baby and so on. So suddenly, like from being in that sort of like very soft sort of lifestyle news, she suddenly catapulted into the most unexpected crisis where people from all different countries have died. Unfortunately, even someone from Mauritius was lost
killed,
there.
Yes.
So it's like suddenly this is a drama of international proportions which has just come out of nowhere. And how did the Prime Minister of New Zealand then manage to follow this kind of crisis communication principle? Like, first she showed concern, she showed it physically, she was there dressed in black, she had a headscarf, she was like hugging the people, that she showed, like both through her comments, but I would say this is a case where a picture speaks 1,000 words. There she was with everyone, she was dressed, she was mourning with them, and this was the first thing. This is perception counted more than her actual words. Then when it came to action, she stood up and she said, all of these military-style weapons are now immediately going to be banned in New Zealand.
And they are banned.
That's it, they are banned.
They are banned.
That's it, they're banned.
The law has been
that's it.
In the New Zealand Parliament.
That's it, exactly. So that was swiftly done. All of the parts of the weapons also, like no longer,
sold or no longer sold.
Exactly, that's it. So in terms of action, that she took a very clear and appropriate action to stop it, from ever being repeated. And if we look at her message of reassurance, is to say, that New Zealand is a company which is, it lives in harmony. We have welcomed people throughout our history to join us here. That this is not who we are. This is not this is not New Zealand. That she had a message of reassurance for those that are thinking, oh dear, maybe now I don't dare to go to New Zealand. I was supposed to go, I wouldn't dare go. That she's found a way to actually bring all of this together in terms of her concern, her action, her reassurance. So, I would say that this is actually, one of the most shining example of a crisis communication in the face of an absolute. That's it, exactly. It was a terrible tragedy, but if we look purely from a communication standpoint, that what she has done, she was actually the best example, actually.
If this is a case study for Samantha,
yes.
I'm not doing for CIPR, but for Samantha, for you?
Yeah, yes, absolutely, because I think that she actually followed all of those key principles.
She was well prepared.
Yes.
The PR were professional. We
we cannot know what were the skills and experience of the people around her, but she definitely got it right. It was perfectly spot on what she did.
Last question, I know, but you're very busy, Samantha. Is that from the time there's an incident, whatever incident, is it a fraud, an accident, an harassment, everything, a fire, I don't know, a theft. Other golden hours to do, and are there a lapse of time, but we are going to have action? Is there is a time frame, or we say we are going to take action just to stop that attention on that company, and then you do things in 2 years, 3 years time? Are there golden hours? Or golden days?
Yes, well, I mean, I think it depends very much on what type of crisis it is. So I mean, again, we can also look at the example of Ethiopian Airlines, which again I know I've mentioned to you before, but it's also a good example. So what happened on the day of the terrible crash?
Ethiopian, you can tell it. Ethiopian 737.
That's it, exactly. So we all know that the plane had left Addis Ababa, went down, like all those poor people were perished there. But if we look at what happened on the communication side, because myself, I have friends and I have contacts both in Ethiopia and also in Kenya. So when I first heard this news, I was like worried because maybe there was someone I knew involved in it. So I went to look on the website of Ethiopian Airlines, and in fact there was no change. It was the usual website of Ethiopian Airlines. It just had special offers, travel here, travel there. I mean, by this time it was probably 1 hour and a half after the plane had gone down. But nonetheless, there was no emergency number. There was nothing. It was just as if it had never happened. And then on other forms of social media, there had started to be some sort of press conference or sort of notes, which was being published on Twitter, for example. But it wasn't put on the company's main website. And then what happened, I think, I don't know if it was the same day or the following day, that then you started to see people from the authorities, like standing, on the site, and I think the CEO from Ethiopian Airlines himself was there, in all this terrible debris and everything. But all the way through, the website of Ethiopian Airlines remained exactly as it was. Which I think, imagine, it was just terrible. Because it's like, what does that say to people who are going on that website to look for information on on their families, on their friends? They've gone there, they've just heard the news on the radio, or they've just seen it somewhere. They go on that website, and all they see is about special offer.
In that case, Samantha was the CEO of a representative of that airline company well briefed, because you must have information.
Well, that's it. I mean, I do realise that one of the problems that people face in this situation is that they don't know how it happens. And there's also an element as well where if people say that they are sorry, like the word sorry is often not used because people think if they say I'm sorry, then it demonstrates. That's it. It gives, some people think it gives the impression of a legal liability. I mean, I know that this has been tested sometimes in the UK. That I think there it's considered that saying sorry that something has happened is not equated to the fact that you are taking responsibility for it. But I think that people are always nervous to say sorry when something bad has happened because they think maybe then I'm now going to be considered as responsible. But say something bad happens, you don't know what happens. I mean, the best thing that you can say is to say, this is a terrible tragedy. That that we will be taking the utmost measures to understand how it has happened. Because particularly if you're looking at the airlines, for example, again, I mean, it was the Chinese, I believe, that actually first grounded the fleet. That's it. So the Chinese said, that we ground it immediately because we don't know anything. I think the US actually did not immediately ground it. They just said, oh, well, we haven't had any problems, we keep going. Even the Ethiopian Airlines itself did not make any immediate comments that they were going to ground the rest of the fleet, which was exactly the same. So I mean, I think it was the Chinese actually took the top mark for communication and also for actual passenger responsibility by saying that we don't know what has gone wrong here, but in order to prevent another crisis, I mean, again, as we found out in retrospect, 5 months before, there was another of those fleets which also just went down completely unexpectedly.
We had the same equipment.
That's it. So well.
Let's take this part of the story, Samantha. Time has come. Everything we know who is responsible. We know that there's a jack screw. I know that Boeing is making a update of electronic system.
Technology. Oh yes.
Time has 6 months. What will be the operation? Do you think that a company? We're not taking the Ethiopian, but a company has come into the fire. He has a new product. to sell. But you know, whenever you're going to invite the journalist, you are going to go. You have to stand bad story. What are the steps that the PR should take to tell them you are going to tell the journalist, okay, we talk about the product, we don't talk about
what happened. Yes, indeed.
Or you tell the CEO, the representative, the one who is going to be in front of the table presenting. Whenever you're going to that question, you would tell us, okay, don't talk about this. Let us stay focused on this topic. On this topic.
Yes, that's right. So, well, I mean, I think that's true. I mean, it also depends on the gravity of what it has been. I mean, if it was something like, you know, a product recall, then you can say, oh well, you know, we have now, you know, we've dealt with the problem at the factory. That our new products are now, you know, have gone through additional testing, and that we are very confident that there is no problem for consumer safety or anything like that. I mean, if it's like a matter of life and death, then you obviously have to look at it in a more sensitive way. I mean, what we've also seen, I mean, even in Mauritius, as we know, it's like when something terrible has happened in a particular place, that also there can be a rebranding, which is something that we have definitely seen here. That, you know, because like suddenly the name of a particular organisation or a place where people have stayed, that name has gone around the world, you know, in a couple of minutes. So suddenly that name itself is associated with a tragedy, and then, you know, there can be a reorganisation. There can be, you know, there can be a new name for a particular group conducting a certain activity. You know what I'm talking about. That's it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, that's it. But it's actually true that like now when people look on websites abroad, and if they do a Google search, that the old name of that particular place does not appear anymore, unless you have a very old map. And then when it shows you a map of the island, then you come across the old name. So it's like, so occasionally that legacy can still be found through Google. But I would say, you know, overall, that if you rebrand, it gives you a sense of distance from something bad in a way.
But is it, you use internet media?
Yes.
Is that sometimes in that situation you change your name and and then somebody can trace it out?
Oh yes.
If you talk about a group that changed name 5 years ago, we won't be able to be, because our mind, human brain won't be able to see what was the last name that company had 5 years ago. But on the internet, you have it.
On the internet, you will find it. That's
you have it. So how you are like APR have to deal?
Well, that's right.
But guys, there's a good journalist coming. I don't know who is in the hospitality tourism sector.
Yes.
He goes to that hotel.
What
we were talking about. Yes. You're talking the name of the hotel, and somebody says, hey, this was
something else. Yes.
What happened? What you have been doing? Instead of doing that story around this hospitality institution, is going elsewhere. The story they want to see what happened to that case.
Yes, that's right. So, well, but I mean, this is something which, you know, say if it's like an tourism, you know, organisation, whatever. I mean, it's up to them to try and do what they can. I mean, we've seen what happens. That we've seen that, you know, people try to sort of, you know, kind of turn the page to a new chapter in all those sort of respects. But well, I mean, in the days of the internet, I mean, you do have a lot of specialists and people which are sort of working with PRs in the area of the search engine optimization, which basically is a kind of code for saying how you can kind of, you know, wipe out things that are on Google. I mean, people will pay a lot of money for this, particularly if you've had, if you've had some real major crisis that you want to be, I mean, it's very difficult to get something completely wiped off the internet. Yeah. But what you can do is that you can make sure that it only comes up on like page 25 and not on page 1 of a Google search.
But the journalist will go to
oh yes, that's it.
We won't go to page 1.
No, I don't
go to page 1. I go to page 10 to page 15 and to see whatever was there before.
Yes, that's right. But well, I mean, basically, this sort of SEO activity relies on the fact that a journalist has only got so much time and energy that many of them will not do such a great degree of investigation. They might get to page 4 or 5, and then they say, okay, now I have something else to do. But I mean, nonetheless, I mean, there is still a lot of effort. I mean, you have this whole SEO sort of industry which has built up precisely around this to kind of wipe out. It's like the airbrushing of history of crises. So people make money from that.
Coming back, Samantha, to CIPR, the Mauritian network.
Yes.
A number, an email that the person that who are going out who were out from college and from university, but would like to enter that bloomful life of public relation, they can contact you. You can enter to have these online courses.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's right. Yes, I mean, people can contact me. So, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. People can send me a message there. And I also have like an email address that people can look at. So I say if people look me up, Samantha Seewoosurrun, and then I'm happy to give people all the details of how to join, about the different membership grade available in Mauritius, and so on. I mean, overall, I must say I'm very happy with the reactions that I've had. I mean, a number of people have come to me already joining and said, I think it's a good thing for the credibility of the industry. It's good for people's personal training to help them learn new areas. And now I think as we start to build our network, we can also organise events where we can again bring people together to discuss important issues for the islands and for the image of Mauritius itself, and also to work on people's own personal areas.
Maybe somebody want to do PR but do not have the money. It's a very important factor here in Mauritius. Do you offer scholarship, or you're going to I pay you and then you refund me back? I don't.
Well, I mean, there's not a scholarship scheme as such, but well, I mean, we have like the level of the fee is relatively low for a global affiliate, and then also for student membership it's even cheaper. But I mean, for anyone which is interested to know the pricing, then I can provide all of the information. I mean, there is also a website of the CIPR, which is www.cipr.co.uk. That's right. So this has all the information on membership grades, pricing, different types of qualifications and courses. So this is also a good place that people can start as well.
Thank you very much, Samantha.
Have a nice day. Thank you so much, and you too. A pleasure to speak to you.